Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Marc-Anthony, and if you're new here, my company Scaling Webinars has generated over $10 million in webinar sales for online coaches, creators, and those who sell alternative education on the internet. And the goals of my videos are to pass down the lessons that we've personally had generating over $10 million webinar sales so you can scale your business using webinars to multiple seven figures. So today's video is something alternative, not really in the webinar realm. So it's 2025 currently as we're speaking. There's a couple more days until 2026, less than a week. And I wanted to make this video passing down 25 lessons of 2025 that I've personally learned generating millions of dollars for our clients' businesses using webinar funnels. And some of these lessons are webinar related and some are not webinar related, but I hope you get a lot of value out of this video. All right, so let me grab my notes here. Lesson number one, all right? Lesson number one is one funnel, one traffic source, one offer. So, and excuse my handwriting, but one funnel, one traffic source, one offer. So each lesson I'm gonna give to you, I'm gonna tell you a little bit of a story about how I found out about this lesson. But originally, one of our clients, they came to us and we've already generated seven figures using a webinar funnel, but they told us that we need to launch another funnel, a VSO, right? And we were in the process, we were making the VSO, we wrote the copy, we came up with the positioning, everything like that. And then we sat down and we realized that the webinar that we were currently running, we could still get a lot more juice from the squeeze or the whatever the analogy is that people use. So most people don't really understand that you can scale a business to as really far as you want it to go using one funnel, one traffic source, one offer. Now, transparently, once you start getting above $500, $600, $700,000 a month, there are times where you see diminishing returns where maybe it makes sense to add another funnel mechanism in order to scale the business further. But at the time, that just wasn't the case. And many business owners, they see shiny object everywhere where people are saying low ticket funnels are working or VSL funnels are working, or even me on this video where I preach strictly webinars are working. And what you must understand is that everything under the sun works, okay? It's just about what works for you, okay? So, one funnel, one traffic source, one offer. That is all that you need to scale your business to multiple seven figures, right? Let's call it $500,000 a month. That's $6 million a year. One funnel, one traffic source, one offer, right? That's all you need, okay? So that's lesson number one, okay? Now, lesson number two is, this is probably my favorite lesson. Lesson number two is to run more webinars. And by the way, I own that domain, runmorewebinars.com. I own that domain. But run more webinars. That was the lesson number two of 2025. So we were scaling a client's webinar, and there was a problem with the funnel. Okay, so this was the problem with the funnel. We ran a webinar on Wednesday, and we would book out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and maybe some of Sunday. Okay, and typically our teams are off on Sunday, right? But the front half of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, were like half calendars at best. So we were trying to really crack the setter motion. And on some of our accounts, the SDRs, they work beautifully. And some of our accounts, SDRs don't work as well, right? Now, I'll get into that a little bit later. While some people may call that a limiting belief, I just believe in leaning into what already works. Because there's a reason that it's working, and there's a reason that something may not be working. Lean into your strengths and lean into what already works. I digress though. So, my business partner, Audie, he came to the team and he's like, yo, guys, we need to fill up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with more calendar space so we can make more money. And at the time, we were only running one webinar a week. So he came up with the brilliant idea of running a second webinar that week. That's all we did. And we doubled the account's weekly revenue. It seems so simple and like almost retarded saying this out loud, but it's the truth. We just did more of what worked. We ran more webinars and we magically made more money, right? So run more webinars. This can be translated into anything that you're currently doing. If you have a VSL funnel, maybe you just double down on the VSL funnel. I guess that kind of pairs in tandem with one funnel, one traffic source, one offer. But if you're currently running one webinar a week and you're making a lot of money with that one webinar a week, it may just make sense to run 2 webinars a week. Because what if you ran 2 webinars a week and you could double your business? Would you do that? That's a question you gotta ask yourself. But run more webinars, that's lesson number 2. That's probably my favorite lesson of the new year. That's when I bought that domain, actually. So, lesson number 3, and this is another good lesson. Hire people smarter than you. Lesson number 3, hire people smarter than you. So there's this trend that I'm seeing online about being a solopreneur, a lifestyle business owner, if you will. Especially when you're making, let's call it $200,000, $100,000 a month, and you are the only business owner, you're the only founder of your business, right? Or maybe not even the founder of your business. You're the person of your business that takes home the most money, right? At that point, you can live a really good lifestyle, right? Most of the people that you see on the internet that, you know, they've got the cars, they've got the watches, they got all these things, the Miami penthouses. They're typically solo founders. All the money that they make, they keep all that money. But what I found is that those people, they typically don't have the smartest people on their team. They are the smartest person on their team. And hiring smart people, it costs you money, a lot of money, right? To hire people who are better than you and smarter than you, right? But the advantage of doing that is that you can then scale your business exponentially. I find it fascinating that human capital can condense the cycle of time rapidly. If you have the right people in your organization that move the business forward every single day, the amount of time that it takes to get initiatives done is just like, it just rapidly decreases. I don't know however else to like articulate that. It just rapidly decreases. And this year I found that completely fascinating with some of our roles. So for example, shout out to Rafiq. He's our head creative strategist at our agency. So what he does is like all of the, he manages all our team of editors and pretty much moves different creative initiatives forward, right? Within our editing team who edits all of our ad creatives for our clients. So sometimes he'll come up with ad creative concepts, like the editing styles and everything that needs to be done. He started off as just an editor at our company. And then, right, quickly I noticed, oh my gosh, this guy's mad talented. Like, let's have him run teams. Have him run an editing team, right? Our creative team as our head creative strategist, be our head creative strategist. Instead of me doing it. Because he was far better than me at doing it, far better than me, right? And with doing that, he came up with different SOPs. He came up with different processes that I never even thought of, right? Because he is way smarter than me in a creative domain. We have another member of our team that we brought on to be a sales manager on one of our accounts, okay? And he implemented a new process that like 5x the number of booked calls that our setter team was booking in every single day. Like he 5x'd our setter output within the setter motion. So now our company's gonna make more money. Now he costs a lot of money in order to keep him around. And so does Rafiq, to be fair. For the role that they do cost quite a bit of money, right? However, do I take home less money as a result of that? Yeah, right? But am I able to serve our clients in a way better way? Am I able to scale our business in a way bigger capacity and scale our clients' businesses? Yeah. 100% I am. So hire people much more smarter than you, right? Like I'm talking about so smart that you barely can understand the things that they're saying at times, right? So as a business owner, you need to understand You need to conceptually understand from a first principle standpoint how things work. So before you bring on an ads agency, you should understand how ads work. Before you bring on a sales manager, you should understand how a setting and closing process works. Before you bring on someone to manage all the fulfillment for you, maybe operations, you should understand how the day-to-day of your business works from an operational standpoint before you make any key hire like that. But once you do, you should only understand from a first principle standpoint, and then have the more talented people in that domain run the domain, right, as they see fit with your supervision. Okay, so hire people smarter than you. That's lesson 3. Now, lesson 4, and this is a good one. This is another good one. All these are good ones, to be fair. Lesson 4 is ride the momentum. So, when it rains, it pours in business. So there are certain cycles of your business to where you'll make, actually I don't want to say this as a definitive because it's not a definitive, but I was going to say 50% more, but that's not a definitive. But there are certain parts of the year, certain cycles of your business to where you'll make far more in a short span of time than you would make over an elongated period of time. And that's because momentum is real. When it rains, it pours. Okay, so excuse me. Let me take my business for example. We had a stint of time to where all things were firing on all cylinders, right? So there was this energy in the org, this momentum in the org, and we rode that momentum incredibly hard, right? Not only in our business, but in our clients' businesses as well. So you need to identify once things start clicking, and you'll know when everything just feels easy and effortless, right? That's not when you go take a trip to Dubai. That's not when you do all these other crazy things, right? That's when you just literally lock yourself in a room and you triple down on the momentum. Because when it rains, it pours. And when you're able to catch all those buckets of dollar bills that are flowing into your business all at one time, that's when you get insanely rich. And that's when you can also be insanely generous to your team. Okay, so ride the momentum. When it rains, it pours. That was one of my favorite lessons from this year. Okay, so the next lesson. Okay, yeah, this is another good one. All right, expand your time horizon. So I learned this lesson where I saw a Instagram video by a guy named Jimmy Farley. Shout out to Jimmy. He owns a info product and educational company called Creators Corner. I've heard great things about them. Expand your time horizon. So he spoke about in an Instagram reel, maybe it was on an Instagram story, about how you should not measure, and he's not the only person to say this, by the way. I've heard this from many people, but his name just sticks out to me. You should not measure the amount of money that you make month to month. It's on a yearly basis. So when you talk to truly wealthy people, so like our clients, for example, when I speak to them, it's always in years, right? How much money did I make last year? How much money am I going to make this year? Okay, so the month-to-month things are just the inputs, okay? But when you expand your time horizon, then you realize you can accomplish far more in a year than you ever could in a month. So I think it was Alex Ramosi, shout out to him, who had this quote where he says that people underestimate the things they can accomplish in, I think he said 3 years, 5 years, but they overestimate what they can accomplish in one. So essentially, people just so narrow-minded and think, okay, cool, I need to hit this amount of money this month or this amount of money this year, X, Y, and Z. When in reality, if you just expand your time horizon of what you truly believe that you can accomplish, then your likelihood to achieve that result is far greater than if you were to just think in such a small capacity within a time frame. So for our own agency and for our clients' businesses going into 2026, we are going to expand our time horizon for when results should occur. Now, that doesn't mean that you compromise on results. You should still be incredibly ruthless with results and moving the business forward day by day, inch by inch. This does not mean you get complacent, but this means that you're able to take a step back, look at the overall picture, and say, okay, cool. If I want to make $10 million in a year, okay, so that's around $800 and something thousand a month. Okay, if I want to make that much amount of money in a year, okay, I still have the year to do this. Now the month by month things, they're just the inputs that I need to do every single day in order to accomplish something in a year. Okay, so number 5, expand your time horizon. And I'm running out of room here, so we're going to start erasing this. Okay, so number 6. Let's go to lesson number 6. Number 6 is, actually, let me just put my phone right here. That's probably be best. Okay. Lesson 6. Find the who, not what. So, this year of 2025 taught me something that I'll forever take with me during my entrepreneurial career, is that the answers to your problems are hardly a what. So most people, they ask themselves, what do I need to do to make $10 million in a year? What do I need to do in order to get my ads to work? What do I need to do in order for my sales team to close at 40%? What do I need to do in order for my show rate to be this? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? Fill in the blank, okay? Now, the answers to your question is typically, and I would argue, it's probably 90% of the time, a who question, not a what, okay? So who do I need to find that can teach me or run this part of my business for me? Who do I need to find that's going to help me make $10 million a year? Which sales reps, who do I need to find that's gonna be able to close at 30, 40% for my business? Who do I need to become in order to make $10 million a year as a business owner, right? It's the who that you need to focus on. Because business is a game of people. It doesn't matter what domain you're in, right? Whether you're running a SaaS company, an e-com company, info product company, whether you have a local business, it doesn't matter. It's a who. Business is a game of people, okay? So focus on the who, not the what for your business in 2026. That's what we're going to be doing. That was one of my favorite lessons of 2025, okay? So lesson number 7 is knowledge is nothing without action. So, if you know me, right, some of you here, you may know me in person. I love courses, mentorship. I am a seeker of more knowledge, okay? But, however, there comes a certain point in time where you need to put aside the knowledge and start implementing. So, and this wasn't a lesson, maybe this was a bonus lesson of 2025, where 80%, how can I say this correctly? I call it the just ship it method, okay? So meaning, if you are 80% done with a project, ship it, okay? Because that other 20%, think of it as the other 20% is just you'll find out that 20% of what X initiative or X project can do by just putting it out, okay? So if you have 80%, if you're 80% confident in a VSL or in a funnel, okay? You'll learn the other 20% when that mechanism is live, essentially, okay? So just ship it, okay? Just push it out there, okay? So that's just action, essentially. So do not consume hundreds of different things and do nothing with it, okay? Knowledge is nothing without action. If you do not implement the things that you are learning the wrong things. So this year, I've really learned to identify what I want to learn about, because there's so many different things I want to learn about, not even in business, okay? But there are seasons in which you must learn certain things, okay? There was a season to which we needed to be a lot better at ad creatives. There was a season to which we needed to be a lot better at managing people. There's a season, which I think is an ongoing season, to be fair. Which there's a season in which we need to know how to, hire, recruit, train sales talent. There's a season to which we need to get better clients, okay? On all of these seasons in your life or in your business, they require knowledge that you either do not have, or it's knowledge that you've just been sitting on in the back of your in your brain that you have not yet implemented. Okay? So, knowledge is nothing without action. Only learn the things that you are willing to take action on, or else it's just wasted knowledge and wasted space in your mind. Okay? So, that was lesson number 7. Now, lesson number 8. Now, this is something I see with a lot of business owners who I consult with and speak to on a daily basis. So, make data-driven decisions. Make data-driven decisions. So there is hardly a time in which you should trust actually, I'm not gonna say that. There are some times where you need to trust your gut as an entrepreneur. But most of the time, you just need to look at the numbers and the figures and the data. And most importantly, you need to know what data to look at. So I'm gonna give you the story in which I found this out for the first time. So one of my good friends, and I consider him a mentor of mine, Andre, he runs a company called Client Ascension and a company called Liskit. Amazing entrepreneur. And I was talking to him, and he first introduced me to a concept, not even a concept, but he first introduced me to this thing. It's called a CEO dashboard, okay? So essentially the CEO dashboard is where you track daily metrics of your business every single day, or on a weekly basis. And we started doing that with our clients' businesses, okay? Because in the beginning of our business health or journey, we realized that a lot of the decisions and things that we were making is just off of gut feeling. So, for example, if I was to ask a business owner, what's your show rate to your sales calls? And I think it's this. I can list to you every single client's show rate to their sales call. I can list to you every single client's close rate to their sales calls, right? Because I know the data. If you do not know data, you will just be operating your business blind forever. Okay? So every single decision that you make in your business needs to come off concrete numbers. Okay? And what's even better is you need a source of truth for your numbers. Because if you're a business owner and you use a funnel building software, and then you run ads, and then you have Hyros, and then you have this, and then you have UTMs, you have all these different things, you have all these different data points and centers where data is coming in. You need to consolidate that data into one central place, the CEO dashboard, shout out to Andre, and that's where you track different data on a week-to-week basis, right? And that's how you can actually set KPIs as to when things are happening in your business, okay? And how to move different things forward in your business and define the constraints in your business. This is only done off data, okay? So, lesson number 8, make data-driven decisions, okay? Now, let's go to lesson number 9. Okay, so lesson number 9, think bigger. And shout out to one of my founders, Bryant, for inspiring this lesson right here, to think bigger. Okay, so I think that me and Bryant, maybe it was a dinner or we were on a Zoom call, I forget where he introduced this lesson or this concept to me. But when we set certain goals for ourselves and our clients, he just called those goals out. We just think, yo, we're not thinking big enough. I believe that people truly do not understand the things that you can accomplish once you open your mind to the possibilities of accomplishing said things. There was a point in time in my personal life where I thought that I was constrained by the ideas and thoughts in my environment. So I thought that I was going to be a doctor. I was raised in a family full of medical professionals, so I thought I was going to be a physician assistant or a physician. Nothing wrong with that. That's not thinking small, by the way. If you want to be a physician, that's great. However, I quickly realized that during my journey of getting started in business and understanding business and understanding people and thinking bigger, I realized that your environment and the thoughts that you have on a day-to-day basis dictate how big you can think. And I think it was a podcast I was watching by the Founders Podcast. And every single entrepreneur that you look up to, whether that be Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, list Rockefeller, just list them all in your head. Every single one of these people, they had an insane, almost, there's no other word to really say this, but like insane approach to how they viewed their own personal goals and the things that they could accomplish. Think about how insane it is that Jobs said that he would put a computer in everyone's hand on Earth. When at the time, computers were huge, right? And no one could see a reality in which this could happen. And I think that's kind of insane how he thought about this before it even happened. He thought bigger, in other words. So you and your business, right? Let me wrap this around full circle. You and your business, there are things that you can accomplish that maybe no one believes that you can accomplish them. But there are steps in order to materialize the thoughts that you have in your head. But first, in order to materialize them, you must think bigger than the way that you're thinking right now. And more importantly, you have to do the day-to-day actions, lesson number 7, in order to accomplish those goals. Okay? So number 9, think bigger. That's one of my favorite lessons. Shout out to Brian for that lesson of the year. Okay? So, okay. Number 10. Choose your network. Choose your network. So, in 2024, okay? In 2024, I set a goal that I wanted to get close to a specific group of people, okay? I identified that if I wanted to grow my business, I needed to be closer to these people, okay? Because they knew things that I don't know, right? And they know people that I don't know. So the entire year 2025, I made it my mission, my goal to get close to those group of people. And what do you know? Those group of people are really great friends of mine to this day. One of them, I shouted out earlier, Andre at Client Ascension. I wanted to get close to the guy, right? Because he had so much more knowledge than I did. And I knew that we were the same type of person from afar, right? So what I'm getting at here is, that's back to the find the who, not what. You see how all these lessons tied together? Andre was a huge who for me. He's been a huge mentor for me, right? And choosing your network can rapidly advance the state to which your business can grow. Okay, so how to identify the right network to choose, okay? That comes back to the knowledge that you need, okay? So for your business, maybe the biggest constraint of your business is marketing, okay? Cool. If the biggest constraint in your business is marketing, who are the best marketers in your niche? Or who are the best marketers maybe in the world that you can learn from? Now, find out where they hang out. Do they throw events every single year, right? Do you know someone that knows them? Can they make the intro? Curate your network of people who think bigger and that are incredibly high performers, because that will then allow you to rise to their standard, right? Their levels, okay? And ideally, you're choosing people in your network that far surpass you. And it doesn't only need to be in a business sense. It could be in a relationship sense. It can be in a health sense. Maybe they have a great, physique. Maybe they have the physique that you want. Maybe they have the marriage that you want, the relationships that you want. And that's how you can choose your network in order to accomplish certain goals that you have for yourself going into 2026, okay? So that's lesson number 10, choosing your network, okay? Now lesson number 11 of this new year, of this 2025, is remain a student. Remain a student. So, my company, we scale businesses with webinars. I believe that we are one of the best in the industry to do it. And I'm gonna link certain videos down below where you can watch our entire webinar system that we currently use. However, I do not know everything about webinars, okay? And you must not be naive enough in your business to think that you know everything about your business than you already do. There is a level higher. So going back to choosing your network, there was a mastermind in Arizona that I was able to be a part of. Shout out to Nick at Agexa. He runs an amazing company over there, the portfolio of brands. And he invited us out to his HQ and we had a little mastermind there. At that mastermind, choosing your network, I met a man named Steven at Prime Movers. Shout out to Steven. Amazing entrepreneur, right? And he was kind enough to introduce me to who was one of my biggest inspirations in our business, Jason Floodwood, right? And if you don't know who Jason is, he's done over over $10 million. He's done over $100 million in webinar sales, right? He's been in the game a little bit longer far longer than we have. And he made the introduction to me, and I was able to hop on 2 consulting calls with Jason and learn so much more about webinars than I already know right now, right? So always remaining a student of life and of the game, whatever domain that you're in, you must always remain a student, okay? I think that as we get older, we forget the childlike curiosity that we all had, like when we were like little. I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and just to hear the conversations that they have with me, the questions that they ask me, they question everything about the world, everything. They ask every sort of question that you can ever imagine. They always ask why, always ask how, always asking a plethora of different questions. And that's because they're truly students of life. They want to know things. Okay, and that's something a lesson that I've learned in 2025 is to always remain a student, always learn more. But when you learn, you take action, which is lesson number 7. Okay, so always remain a student. That's lesson number 7. Lesson number 11 of 2025. Okay. All right. Now, lesson number 12. Lesson number 12 is trust your instincts. Trust your instincts. So, humans, us, we are incredibly complex beings, and we've been around for an incredibly long time. And there are certain instincts that all humans have within them. And these instincts you can apply to your business, okay? So have you ever just been walking down the street, and women are phenomenal at this, by the way. They're very observant of their environment. But have you ever been like walking in the street, or maybe you're sitting down at a restaurant, and you just have this feeling that someone's watching you, right? And then maybe you turn, and then you just catch that person just staring at you for whatever reason. That's an instinct, right? That everyone's naturally born with. And as you progress in being a business owner, all right, especially if your business is maybe quite niche, or like you really know your business and your customers, there's certain instinct that you just have around like things working, right? So like, I just know this will work. I haven't seen anyone do it, but I know this will work, right? I know if we try this, it will work. We just have to try it. So that goes to trusting your instincts. This has happened many times in 2025 for us. Just us like thinking, okay, cool. What if we did this instead of that? What if instead of going direct to cart on our webinars, we pushed everyone to a call? What if for this account we did the opposite, we flipped it, because we know that this ICP buys like this, or whatever the case may be. We have certain instincts around our business and our clients' businesses, being that we've been with them for so long, okay? So trust your instincts when looking at different problems or different initiatives to move forward in your business. Trust your instincts, okay? So that's lesson number 12. Lesson number 13 is that sales calls are the greatest marketing assets. Sales calls are the greatest marketing assets. So, what was it? I think it was maybe in February. In February, we were trying to come up with a different campaign for a client, because we saw that results on that account, right? Specifically, our cost per lead started to inflate. No matter no matter how much more ads we would launch, or how different the angles or different the creatives are, and we consider ourselves very good at meta ads. No matter what we would do, click-through rate wouldn't go, like nothing would work. So we trusted our instincts, and we were like, okay, cool. So like, let's look at this from a different lens, okay? So we started to listen to the sales calls, okay? And I watched sales calls like they're Netflix documentaries. I watch sales calls all the time, right? So I'm watching the sales calls, and I hear that everyone keeps mentioning AI. This is a real estate offer. Everyone keeps mentioning AI. And like, okay, can AI help me do this, AI that? And we were never introducing AI into like the funnel of the marketing at all. So at that point, we use those sales calls to completely flip that client's account in that campaign and start scaling that account just by using AI on the friend, okay? And that also ties back into riding the momentum, because if you notice how AI is very hot right now, how can you incorporate that into your marketing campaign? But we only would have learned that if we had watched the sales calls. So sales calls are now our biggest marketing asset for like when we're writing anything. Emails, that's ads, VSLs, like anything, webinars. It all stems from sales calls, because the beauty of sales calls is people will tell you what they want, why they want it, okay? And what's holding them back, which are all different things that you need when marketing. So if you're not watching your sales calls, I would suggest to watch your sales calls, not just download the transcription and throw it into Manus or throw it into Claude or throw it into ChatGPT. Actually watch sales calls. It is a high ROI activity as a marketer, it is. So watch sales calls, listen to the words that they're saying, use their own words in your marketing, and I guarantee, right? There's not many things I can guarantee, but I guarantee if you listen to sales calls, you will make more money in your business, okay? Especially if you understand the customer. So that's lesson number 13, Okay, now lesson number 14 is to do more of what's working. Do more of what's working. So this goes back into run more webinars essentially, but do more of what's working. Hardly, and again, I think this is Alex Shamosi who said this. The answer is, it's really never new to do something new in your business, because humans, we crave novelty. That's one of the things that, if you're a marketer, that you use in your positioning, right? That this is a new thing, right? Humans, we crave novelty. We want the newest things, right? But the answer to certain problems is typically just do more. Okay, so we had a call with one of our team members, shout out to Josh, and then we were talking about a client's account and whether show rate was down on that account, and no, it wasn't show rate. I'm sorry, it was the amount of book calls that were booked on a weekly basis. It was down slightly under KPI, what we wanted it to be, and we were trying to figure it out, and I was asking him, okay, cool, what can marketing do on this? Can we send out emails? Can we do more CTAs on the Instagram story? What are the different things that we can do to really press the needle, move the needle forward here? And he looked at me, he said, nothing. Sales just needs to do more of what's working. Sellers just need to make more dials. We need to make more offers on the phone, and we will book more calls, right? Just do more. You don't need to do anything new. So we didn't need to come up with a new campaign that we can run every single week, or make new ads, or do this or do that. It's just do more. It amazes me. Sometimes I get on the call with some business owners, and they'll tell me, yo, my webinars, it's at a 5X right now. I'm turning $1 to $5, working really well. And then they're like, yeah, I'm spending $10,000 on ads, $20,000 on ads. I'm like, okay, you're turning $1 into $5. That's pretty good. Why not spend $100,000 in a month? And at that point, all the different questions, concerns, all these different limiting beliefs start popping up. Do more of what's working. Clearly, you have a funnel that's working. Why are you just not 5xing the amount of money that you're putting into the machine? If you put $1 into a machine and you get $5 back, how many times are you going to give that machine $1? Again, I would give that machine $1 a gazillion times. Right? But sometimes, we're just not doing more of what's working. And typically, that's usually the answer. So when I look at any of our clients' businesses that we're currently scaling, any number, any metric, I'm typically asking, how can we do more of this thing that's working in order to make more money? Which is, again, how we found out if we just ran 2 webinars on this account, we'd make double the money, and thus we did, okay? So, do more of what's working. That's lesson 14, okay? Lesson 15. Lesson 15. Pull the right levers. So you want to pull the right levers. So I'm going to tell you another story. Shout out to Jeremy Haynes, because this is the concept that I think I've heard him talk about, is the doubles game, playing the doubles game. So essentially, you want to look at your business, and there's so many different KPIs, metrics in your business, especially in our business with webinars. So I'll give you an example for us. So click-through rate, how many people click on the ads, the percentage of people who obviously click through the ads. We have opt-in rate, how many of those people actually opt into the webinar funnel in order to register for the webinar. Then we have show rate, how many people actually show up to the webinar, right? Then we have conversion rate, so how many people that showed up to the webinar converted into a book call or into a sale. Then we have show rate to the sales call. Then we have close rate. You see, I can just keep going down all in all, right? Now, when looking at all these numbers, you have to identify the one number. If I doubled this one number here, what is the one number that would have the greatest impact on the business that's the easiest to double, okay? So this is another bonus lesson about leaning into your strengths. I believe and again, that ties in, all this goes together. That ties back into do more while it's working. If you lean into one of your strengths, because if it's working, it's probably a strength of yours, right? And you pull the right levers on those strengths, you could potentially 5, 10x your business, okay? So we look for the 10x levers in our clients' businesses. What are the things that if we double them could 10x our growth of the business over X period of time, okay? So for one of our client accounts, we were struggling for a long time to increase the show rate to the webinar further than what it was already. So show up rate was 30%. You're like, okay, cool, like let's get this thing to 40%, right? Now, that's only a 10% increase, okay? However, the opt-in rate was 25%. If we could double that to 50% by just changing headlines or changing elements on the page, then we would increase the throughput in the funnel. Thus, everything on the back end would come out greater. So that's another thing that we've realized, another lesson, is the best constraints to solve are usually nearest to the top of the funnel. Because once you increase a metric on the top of the funnel, the throughput trickles down into the bottom of the funnel, right? Making what you get out at the bottom much greater, okay? So if you're getting 1,000 people to register for your webinar instead of 500, you would double the amount of calls that you'll make that you'll book on webinar, which means you'll double the amount of sales, okay? So try optimizing from front to back. That's typically what I like to do when pulling the right levers, because that typically has the greatest impact on the business as a whole, okay? So lesson number 15, pull the right levers. Lesson number 16. A good product beats great marketing. A good product beats great marketing. And in the creator economy, the online education space, this is not talked about enough. Because let's say physical products, for example. If a physical product does not work, right, it is incredibly easy to then tell everyone about it. That, Apple sucks at making iPhones, right? Or not even it's easier to tell everyone about it. It's just incredibly easy to pick up, it's incredibly easy to use the product fast, see that you didn't get the desired result, and never purchase the product again. With information products, consuming the product typically takes a little bit longer because you're consuming information, and getting the result typically requires a little bit longer because you now need to put the information into action, okay? The physical product is very easy. I use the product. If I like the product, I'll buy it again. If I don't like the product, I'll never buy it again. Now, with the education space, that time period to which someone can find out if they like or don't like the product is a bit elongated because they need to consume information. But if they do like the product, it beats any marketing that you could ever, any marketing campaign you could ever run if you have raving customers who love your product. So we have clients who've literally sold thousands and thousands we have a client who has over 11,000 students. We have a client who's over 4,000 students. We have a client who's sold over like close to 15, 20,000 people that have purchased his Discord. I think more, probably more over the past X amount of years. And the only way that you're able to get to that amount of money, and they haven't spent that much money on ads, by the way, is if the person likes the product and tells someone else, which in the education space is very rare. However, if you have a good product, it beats any marketing that you can run, because businesses are constrained by time, money, and people, human capital, okay? There's only 24 hours in the day. There's only a certain amount of money in the world, and there's only a certain amount of people who can operate your business at any given time. So if this is the constraint, what can far surpass any constraint that you have in your business? And I believe that's a good product. Because if you have a good product, and you deliver it in a shorter period of time, it takes a shorter period of time for the person to get the result. If you have a good product and people are able to pay you more money for that good product, because it solves the time constraint, and if you have a good product and they're able to tell other people about your product, right? That can solve the people constraint. So a good product will be good marketing any day of the week. So if you don't have a good product going into 2026, and you're in my space, and you're in any space actually, you're gonna have a very, very difficult time. So look at your product, find out how to make it better, and the product will do all the marketing for you, okay? That's lesson number 16. So lesson number 17. Lesson number 17 is simplify everything. Simplify everything. So I originally learned this lesson by, I was watching the Founders podcast, and I think it was about Elon Musk, or it was a podcast that Elon Musk was on. One of the two. And Elon talked about this concept of like delete everything, right? Anything complex, anything complicated, delete it, delete everything. So I started doing this in our own business and questioning everything, okay? Why is this process here? Why does this person do this thing? Why does this person need to be here? Deleting everything in your process. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing this? Why is this so complicated, right? Why do we have an SOP on this? We don't even do this anymore. Why do we have this here, right? Why are we using this software when this software is much more simple? Delete everything. Well, not everything, but delete, right? Simplify everything to its most basic components, because complexity is what kills momentum, and it kills an org. I am a person who absolutely hates bureaucracy, right? And like organizations. So I took a plane ride, and we missed our connecting flight because the original flight, they forgot to refuel the plane, so we were stuck on the, what is this called, the runway. We were stuck on the runway, and they had to refuel the plane, which means we missed our flight in New York. I digress, but the point is, when I went to the counter at Delta, and you know, obviously it was asking for compensation for it, and they literally said, yeah, send an email to this email, and it will take 7 business days for someone to reach out to you. What the, 7 business days? Complexity, right? That's incredibly, why the heck is it taking 7 business days for someone to reach out to me, right? And let me know about the situation. So, because I hate bureaucracy in a business, I want to simplify everything in my business so that there is less bureaucratic nonsense, less of that, less business days and less crap, right? So simplify everything in your business, right, to its core structure, right? And then scale it from there. Do not scale things that are complex, because complexity breeds a whole lot of other crap in your business, right? So I'm gonna go off on a little bit of tangent here again, but like, this goes back to people having multiple funnels. Like, I got this funnel and then this funnel, and I sell this product and this product, I do this. In-N-Out is a great, In-N-Out, Cane's, very great examples of this, right? It's a menu with like 8 items. I mean, it's actually not, it's a menu with really one thing to eat, and that's chicken. You can only have chicken here. Cane's, In-N-Out's, you can only have a burger here and fries and a milkshake. But they make it so exceptionally well. They have a great product. A good product beats any good marketing. That the simplification allows them to grow their business and allows you to scale once everything's simplified. So simplify everything in your business, all right? Lesson number 18. Inputs equals outputs. So, shout out to Sam Ovens. In one of his videos, he talks about how he controls his environment for success, like the things he eats, when he sleeps, how how everything around him works, like the clothes he wears, the inputs equals his outputs, okay? So the reason that why you're not hitting certain goals in your business is typically because you're not doing the things necessary, inputs required for the outputs. Or you are doing the inputs, it's just the wrong inputs. Garbage in, garbage out. Good inputs equals great outputs. And that's something that we learn in school in math. And it's funny, I thought I would never use math in my life, but I found myself using math a lot in business, math and science a lot. And the inputs, x plus y equals z, all right? So this is an input, this is an input, this is the output, okay? It's all a math equation. Inputs equals outputs, okay? That's lesson 18. Now, lesson 19. This is another one of my favorite ones. I feel this looks like I'm running everything slanted. 19 is if it's not written, it didn't happen. If it's not written, it didn't happen. So we have, there's 4 founders in our business, and at the beginning of, and honestly, I don't think any business is perfect. So like, you just work towards a perfection. But there was a certain point in time where we would tell people within the org to do something, and it wouldn't get done. And obviously, that breeds contempt. People are upset at each other. I told you to get this back to me yesterday. You said you were gonna do this today, X, Y, and Z. But the thing is, what we found out, it was never written down. So now, in our company, we have a policy that if it's not written down, it never happened, ever, right? Because this kills the speed at which an organization can move with back and forth communication on projects that need to get done. And I find with talking to most business owners that there's nothing written down about how they do things, why they do things, what certain team members do, what they should not do, right? It's not written down. So if it's not written down, you can expect no one to do something, right? And it never happened. If you were to ask someone to do something and it's not written down, it doesn't happen. So that's one of the biggest lessons we learned in 2025. Moving into 2026, everything must be written down. Okay, so that's lesson number 19. Lesson number 20 is relationships over profit. Relationships over profit. So now I know some people have like opinions on this about how money ranks in the hierarchy of, I guess, their business. Like, is it profit above everything, or like, is it the how happy the team is? Is it how happy our clients are, right? But for me, it comes down to this: relationships over profit, always. So my dad, who is one of the reasons I even create videos like these, so if you watch the video where I talked about myself, I talked about my dad and how my dad's an entrepreneur, and there's no written lessons or no documentation of the things he learned. So I make videos like this for my future kids who can watch something like this if they want to be entrepreneurs too. But I digress. My dad, one of the biggest lessons my dad taught me was relationships over profit. So people matter over money, okay? So how people in your organization feel about you matters more than how much money you make. How your clients feel about you in our business matters how much more money we make. What our customers feel about us. If it's your business, if you sell a product, whether it's physical or digital, matters, or a service matters more than money. Because you can make an infinite amount of money, but you cannot get certain relationships back once they are burned. So relationships over profit is just something that I personally live by. I will personally stand by. I believe that relationships come over money any day of the week. So that's a lesson that I learned in 2025. And it's the relationships that we currently have that we maintain every single day. They've made us a lot of money in our business. So lesson 21 is give first, ask second. Now, give first, ask second. So I think the greatest example of this in 2025 is Alex's $100 million book launch. And I don't really think people understand like what he pulled off. And in the internet marketing space, now, I think Alex had the concept of like when the first person broke the 5-minute mile, then someone else broke the 5-minute mile, X, Y, and Z. So someone else was going to break Alex's record. However, Alex built an audience over X amount of years, not selling anything or outwardly selling something. And then he called all that goodwill at once. He gave. And then he made the ask. And he called all of that goodwill from his audience back at one time, and it made him $100 million. What some people make in a year, right, or in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, he made in 72 hours. I think that's what he did it. He did like 3 days back to back to back, which is honestly insanely impressive, right? And like that's honestly insane how he was able to do that. But it took the methodical approach of, I'm not gonna sell anything for a long period of time, and then I'm gonna call it back at once. Now, you watching this, you are probably not as rich as Alex Hormozi, or if you are as rich as Alex Hormozi, welcome. I'm glad you're watching these videos. If you are as rich as Alex Hormozi, actually, then what you can take out of this is that what you can take out of this is that if you want to grow your business, especially in the info product educational company lens, right? Educational business lens, you need to learn to structure your marketing around giving first, then taking second. Because if you continuously take from your audience, and do not pour back into them, then you will realize that moving forward, it will be incredibly hard to make money when you have people like our clients, like Alex, for example, who are constantly giving. And the law of reciprocity is real. It's a law of the universe. When you give enough, people feel obligated to reciprocate that giving, essentially give to you. Okay, so give first, ask second. Alex was the greatest lesson of this year for that. And in my personal business, I've noticed that when I continuously give, and ask second, we tend to make more money. Okay, so give first, ask second. That was lesson 21. Lesson 22. Is the following. Lead from the front. Lead from the front. This is lesson number 22. So, Layla Hermosi, she takes the cake for my entrepreneur of the year. And she's one of the greatest examples of this. She always talks about leadership. So let's say that you, actually I'm gonna use us for example. I'm gonna tell you a story about this. So one of our sales teams, they weren't performing as well. So, and we were telling them to do certain things, and you know, sales reps, always limiting beliefs around to do certain things. So instead of just telling them things to do, we were just like, okay, cool, like we're just gonna hop on with you guys. We're trenchy with you guys, right? We're gonna get in the trenches with you guys. And what do you know? They started to perform. From a 20% close rate the previous week to 33% blended that next week. Us getting trenched with them, showing them, yo, we're in this with you guys. Leading from the front, extremely important. A lot of entrepreneurs, they just like to, again, this is like really the solo founder mentality where they're just like, yo, my team, I make 100K a month at 80% profit margins. I pay my team 20K. I have 20K a month in payroll, and my team just is from freaking Africa, and they just like do all this work for me, and I do nothing. Like that's literally the mentality of so many solo founders. They don't lead from the front. They don't do anything. Okay. When you have an actual team, right? You need to remember that the people within your organization, they have feelings. They have, especially if it's a people-heavy org, they have feelings, they have families, they have lives. So there are gonna be days where they don't perform, right? There's gonna be days where they perform better than others, right? So it's your job as a leader to lead from the front and show them that you still care. I am not above you guys at all, right? If anything, I'm just blessed to be the leader of this organization. And I thank you guys for allowing me to lead you. So let me show you guys that you guys can do this because I can do it too, okay? Lesson 22, lead from the front, extremely important. One of my favorite lessons of this year. So, lesson 23, never compromise results. Never compromise results. So, this is extremely important. This lesson is extremely important in a business like mine, where we are a results-based business, okay? We've done over $10 million in webinar sales, right? In about less than 2 years, we've done this amount of money, right? It's because we do not compromise results, and we expect our team to not compromise results, okay? So this specific phrase came from Sharma. Shout out to Sharma, CEO Sharma on Instagram. He spoke to one of our founders, Audie and KJ, and then we were just talking about a certain client account, and then he told them, since when do we compromise results? And that just stuck with me. Like, that will stick with me forever. Since when do we compromise results? There is no compromise when it comes to results in your business. There's no compromise. There are no excuses, and there is no compromise. Never compromise results. I think that's self-explanatory. That was lesson 23. If I had to like rank these, top 5 lesson of 2023, because that will be the lesson of my business forever, is we will never compromise results, all right? For ourselves or our clients. So, lesson 24. Profit first. Profit first. So, one of our clients, we had a call with him, and we were talking about growing in 2026, the plans for 2026. And one of the biggest topics that we were talking about was profit margin, right? That is something that's not talked about at all in entrepreneurial internet space. It's almost crazy how like we all know, like everyone shares their numbers, but no one shares how much money they actually make. It's like the e-com. Like, the business space has been littered with like the e-com mentality of like, I do $100,000 in sales. It's like, okay, but like how much did you make? And you know, I don't know if people don't share it because of the IRS or financial reasons, whatever your reason is why you don't share your profit margins. I get it, I understand. But internally with our clients, like this is one of the number one things that we're going to be focusing on is profit first. That's all that matters. I know there's business owners who make $1 million a month that make less money, take home profit, than a business owner who makes $350,000 a month. How's that possible? Well, they don't care about this, profit. And you can still make $1 million a month with a great profit margin. You just have to structure your business in a way that allows it to happen. And it typically comes with repeat customers, which obviously you can't get repeat customers if you do not have a good product. So, have a profit first mentality. That's one of our lessons of 2025. One of my favorite lessons, which we will carry in forever, right? Profit matters. That's the only thing that matters, how much money you make. That's the only thing that matters. Okay, now the final lesson of 2025, right, is success requires sacrifice. Success requires sacrifice. So this is my personal opinion, and you may not share this, and there are some people that may not share this, but there is no such thing as balance when you want to achieve something greater than yourself. There's no such thing as balance when you want to achieve something greater than yourself. So if you're a person who you want to make $20,000 a month, and if that's you, this is the wrong channel to watch, by the way. This channel is for business owners who want to make multiple millions of dollars, tens and tens of millions of dollars every single year. That's what this channel is for. But let's say that is you. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But in order for you to make 10K a month, 20K a month, that doesn't require something greater than yourself. It typically only requires yourself, to be honest. There's not that much. You don't really need a big team. You can maybe have one VA. You don't really need much to make $20,000 a month. And you will live a good life. Don't let anyone tell you differently. You will live a good life. But there comes to a certain point where it comes back to thinking bigger. If you want to achieve something far greater than yourself, take care of far more people than just yourself, this requires sacrifice. And if you are not hitting that goal, then you must ask yourself, what am I sacrificing? For me, for this past 2025, in 2024, I was in the gym 3 days a week. In 2025, I barely saw the weight room, the gym, right? Now, that's something in 2026 that I'm not gonna compromise on, but that required sacrifice for that certain point and period of our business, right? Was me sacrificing my health, essentially, right? So, success requires sacrifice. In order for you to reach certain levels, you must ask yourself, it's always, what am I willing to give up? Am I willing to give up night out with my friends? Am I willing to give up not seeing my family all the time like I want to? Am I willing to give up not being in the gym 5 days a week? Just find out what you're willing to give up. List it. In 2026, what am I willing to give up? For me, I'm willing to give up bad habits, right? I'm willing to give up time on social media. The only time I'm going on social media would be to make videos like this for you guys, right? And for, acquiring more clients, right? Acquiring better clients for our business, okay? That's the only time I'm a person who uses social media, so that's what I'm giving up, okay? Ask yourself, what are you going to give up this year? Because in order for you to hit your goals, you must be willing to give up something. There's a trade-off of life, right? So, I hope you really enjoyed these lessons of 2025. Those are all the lessons of 2025 going into 2026. So again, the reason I make these videos is lessons to my past, future, and present self. So my kids can one day watch videos like these and learn all the lessons that I've learned. I also make these videos to get clients, of course, for our business, to grow the biggest portfolio of educational companies and maybe other companies in the future who are actually willing to change the world and think much bigger than themselves. And in order to do that, I need the greatest talent in the world that will work at my company, Scaling Webinars. So I love you guys. I hope these lessons helped you out in 2025. I hope some of them you can take into 2026. I'll see you guys later. Peace.